Hi guys, my name is Karthik and I am from AzureAutomation.com and welcome to an all-new course from Azure Automation on continuous integration, development and delivery with Azure DevOps. So this is an all-new course guys, and we have already discussed about Team Foundation Server 2015 and 2017 a lot in our other courses in YouTube as well as in Udemy, and this is first time we are going to be talking about another upgraded version of Team Foundation Server or renamed version to Azure DevOps in this video. So let's quickly see an introduction in this video and we'll understand how things work. Azure DevOps, formerly known as Visual Studio Team Service or VSTS, announced in September 2018, has a lot of new features which VSTS did not have before. And Azure DevOps is even more cross-platform right now by supporting the test execution or the development code execution in Windows, Mac, and Linux operating system. So you can see that the cross-platform is something which Microsoft is insisting right now a lot, and Microsoft has introduced so many different support to these platform by executing the code in all these different operating systems without any problem. And Azure DevOps is with no difference, it is going to be supporting all these different platforms without any problem. So you can either use Azure DevOps Service or Azure DevOps Server of your choice based on your organization need. And once again, if you ask the difference between the Azure DevOps Service or Azure DevOps Server, is that the service is something which is hosted in Microsoft Cloud and you need to pay something like Microsoft Azure payment and something like that. Or if you are going to host complete Azure within your own server, then you can use the Azure DevOps Server, which is nothing but the Team Foundation Server, which we discussed in our other courses in our Azure Automation YouTube as well as in Udemy. The same exact stuff is this one, the Azure DevOps Server, which is going to be something that you're going to be using within your local installation or within your organization. So it's not going to be hosted in the Microsoft Azure platform anyway. So if we're going to talk about the pricing of Azure DevOps Service, because we're not going to be talking about the Azure DevOps Server yet, but we are going to just talking about the Azure DevOps Service in this video. You can see that the pricing is pretty decent, and I would say that it is also really exciting to see that for the individual services and for the user licenses, you know, for the basic user, you get up to 5 users for free, and then $6 per user per month for board and repo. So if you're going to have a small team with like 5 users, you can use the Azure DevOps Service for free without any hesitation. And then you can also have a basic test plan as well, which is like 30 days of free. But if you don't really want to use the test plan, if you directly are going to execute within your own automation test, then probably you don't really even have to have this test plan. But it is nice to have feature because it has so many different things that you can do with. Again, once you try Microsoft Azure DevOps Service in an extent level, then probably you can purchase this particular plan. And then you can see that Azure Pipeline, you can see there is like one free Microsoft hosted CICD and one free self-hosted CICD. And you can also see that the one hosted job with like 1,800 minutes per month is free. So basically, if you're going to be using a one free Microsoft hosted CI/CD agent, you're going to get like 1,800 minutes per month. And if your project is a public project, then you will also get like 10 free parallel execution for unlimited number of minutes per month, which is really, really cool. And also, you can see that for the self-hosted agent within your own machine, you'll also get an unlimited minutes where you can execute any number of tests and any number of build without any problem. So these are the cool things that you can use with Azure Pipeline, and this is also really fantastic to see that there is not much price involved in all these services. And then Azure Artifacts, you can get like 2 GB of free, and then starting $2 per GB. So I don't think you really are going to use the artifacts yet for this particular course, because it is something like you're going to be hosting your own version of NuGet or your own version of NPM in the Azure. But in this course, we are not really going to be talking about all these stuffs. And again, free is more than enough for the Azure artifact to get started with this course. So this is the Azure DevOps Service pricing plan, and I don't think this is really costly as well. And finally, these are the service which is provided by Azure. As we saw in the pricing, there is a Azure board, which is completely free. And then there is Azure Pipeline, Azure Repos, Azure Test Plan, Azure Artifacts, and then Extension Marketplace. So extension marketplace is where you get all the extension like Slack, Octopus, and other different kinds of third-party vendors to give you even more extension capability for the Azure DevOps. And we'll be discussing about this service in much greater detail in our next video, but these are the services that you'll be getting with Azure DevOps service. And system requirement. So if you're going to be just using the Azure DevOps service, all you need to have is the latest version of Windows or Mac or Linux operating system. Chrome, Edge, Safari browser is more than enough with that. And if we are going to be developing the code, then you should be having the Internet Information Server and Visual Studio. So again, Internet Information Server is kind of deprecated by Microsoft. They're not really entertaining people to use IaaS for deployment. Rather, they always prefer people to deploy in managed services, something like Azure or Google Cloud or AWS. But we are going to be discussing about deployment in IaaS because I don't really have an account for any one of them. And finally, how is this course is being designed? Unlike other courses, the course has got very few presentation in theory. Rather, we'll be discussing everything in complete practical session. Because I see that the Azure DevOps is more into the portal and we don't really have to write any code in this place, it is very easier to get into the practical session rather having so many discussion on the theory, because what you see is what you get with the Microsoft principle, and that's exactly what happens with the Microsoft Azure DevOps service as well. So let's quickly get started with our course.